So Juan, you are the founder and co-CEO of Ebury, one of Europe's hottest fintech companies. You guys are operating in over 20 countries and work with over 50,000 customers. And yet Ebury has managed to stay a little bit under the radar to the general public. So for those who might be unfamiliar with Ebury, could you give us a quick intro and just an idea of where you're at in development right now?
Okay, so we started Ebury almost 10 years ago, and just to help businesses in Europe to do better cross-border payments. No? That's the and companies grow nicely, so we've been growing more than 50% every year. We employ now over 1,000 people in 20 countries, and I think we are now a settled company, probably less of a startup and more of a settled company, still growing. And yes, we've been a little bit under the radar. I mean, maybe it's just how we are. You're very focused on growing the business, and that's where we're putting all the energies. And it's been a good story so far, I think.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's a strategy that's working for you guys, because in November of last year, the Spanish bank Santander announced that it was investing £350 million into Ebury. So it effectively acquired 50.1% of the company.
Correct.
Idea.
Yeah, that's correct.
I'd really like to dig into the details because it's a huge deal. And also for the other fintech startups who are listening to this, it's going to be super helpful for them to understand what it takes to achieve such a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're okay with that, let's start at the beginning. How did you meet Santander? Did you approach them, or was it the other way around?
Actually, we didn't know, despite me being Spanish, we didn't know them at all. I mean, we work with other banks. We're based in London, so we've been working with Barclays, Citibank, other banks, but not with them. But at some point, I think Santander was following a very similar path to us. No? They are very focused on businesses, medium-sized businesses. We are also very focused on medium-sized businesses. And they also believe that actually new technologies can help those businesses to do better. And I think it was quite natural that at some point we met, because we were just following the same path. And for us, look, I think we always thought that having a bank could give us a know-how that sometimes as a fintech you are lacking. I mean, fintechs build very complex business very rapidly, and that complexity is a complexity that exists within banks. And what you will see now more often is people that have been working for banks for many years joining these fintechs, because actually fintechs do need that know-how. So we thought that the combination of Santander, the know-how Santander brings with the agility that we had at Ebury, that would be a phenomenal combination. That's why we did that deal. Yeah.
So you said you were working with other banks like Barclays, and you mentioned a couple others. Did you talk with them about investing as well, or was it just Santander?
I think we do it all the time. No? Banks do invest in businesses like us in different ways. No? Sometimes they build a product that you might need. That's an investment. It might not be an equity investment, but it's an investment of time and resources. Sometimes they give you debt capital to grow. No, it's not equity, but it's also an investment to some extent. So I think that is happening all the time. No? It was happening all the time throughout the life of Ebury. As I said, look, conversation with Santander was slightly different, but not that different to the conversation we're having with banks all the time. Yeah.
So essentially, they approached you because you didn't know them right at the beginning, and they had this interest or this idea that they wanted to pitch to you.
That might be correct. As I said, look, when Santander is a big organization, so we have people in Ebury that were talking to them. I was not talking to them. I started talking to them because they were very interested in the space we were doing. And after that, I mean, we started talking to them maybe 2 years before the deal was done. And it felt quite natural. I mean, they were just following a very, very similar path to the path we were following.
So I'd like to understand a little bit more about the negotiation, because you guys are big, but Santander is a really old industrial bank. They've been around for so long. What was it like negotiating the deal with them?
I think it was, again, look, I think there was probably, a cultural issue that made it very easy. I don't know whether us being Spanish, actually being Spanish from the same part in Spain, north of Spain, and I don't know what it was. I mean, it felt just quite easy. I think things felt always quite balanced. We didn't have the feeling that we were getting to a situation that was unbalanced one way or the other. So I think it was a good experience. It was not. I don't think we had ever a crisis. Those negotiations were dramatic. They felt quite natural and balanced all throughout. So it was a good experience. And look, actually, we did the deal. We signed that deal almost a year ago. I mean, and still things are very balanced, very amicable. So I think that we were lucky. I think we just found an investor and a partner that actually is fitting quite well with what we do and who we are as a business, and that's working well. Yeah.
So do you have any, besides being lucky, do you think there are any other things that you did to make this partnership work so well? And maybe, discussing terms and signing, was there something about being aligned in the beginning, or like?
I think that's the mission we both have as a business. Our mission is to make for businesses that are becoming international, make them to have a better way of paying or collecting money or doing cash management. That's what we do, and that's our mission. So everything we do is about that. And I think that Santander had a very similar vision. I mean, look, a mission is, they're absolutely committed to make that to work for those businesses that are their clients. So that means that everything they build, the same as, is just oriented, is just geared towards that situation. And that has made our collaboration very easy, because yes, we might be developing a capability, and that capability might be exposed in one of our APIs. Then Santander will be probably the bank that will always will be among the first testers of those capabilities, because it makes sense for them. So I think that's by being so aligned as a business, we are making this partnership to be an easy partnership, I think.
Okay. And then I have a question about the 50.1%. In the context of this deal, what does that mean for you guys?
I mean, for 50.1%, it was, it's got some benefits. At that point, you might be consolidated as a subsidiary within Santander, and that's fairly technical. It's got some advantages when we try to finance ourselves, when we try to talk to the market. So I think that has got some benefits. What it represents, it represents a very balanced, partnership. Yes, they own 50.1%, but it's still 49.9% are owned by other people. And those two parties need to agree on what to do, going forward. So I think that it's part of this balanced approach that I think that we took. And look, and it's working well. I mean, it's nothing that we will do that will not be discussed. And then through discussion, you're making whatever you do to be, better. I think that when you talk to another party, normally you get, or you find, a better outcome.
It sounds like it was really strategic mission alignment for both of you guys. I'm curious how you guys used the 350 million pounds. Was it for an increase in capital? Was it for the management team cash out? What was the purpose of?
A combination of things. So there was an element of cash out for early investors. I mean, we had many angel investors that invested in the business when we founded the business, and those guys were interested in cash out. So that happened. There is also more equity into the business. So, operating in 20 countries means that luckily your capital requirements are now higher, and I think you need to have more equity. And there was also an element of growth debt capital too that they put in addition to the 350 million. They put more growth capital in the form of debt to help our growth. So I think it was a combination of things. Probably they can provide all pots of capital you need as a fintech startup. You need equity. They can provide you equity. you need debt for growth, they can provide you debt for growth. And in this case, they were also keen on providing a liquidity event for early investors that wanted to cash out. That's also what they did.
Okay, so you're able to sort of hit on all of those different things. And I really want to get into sort of next steps and growth and plans for you guys. But before we do, I want to back up into, so what we saw, we sort of the outsiders, were sort of different press releases. And so there was the announcement in November, and then there was 5 months later in April, the closing. So it took about 5 months. What happens behind the scenes during that time?
So in our case, is getting the approvals from regulators everywhere where we are operating that they are happy with that transaction, and that took time. And so I think that we did it it took us almost 6 months. Sometimes it might take longer. I mean, if you're working with regulators in countries or maybe frontier countries where it's not clear what the process is to get the approval, it might even take longer. So in our case, it was just regulators actually taking the time to approve the transactions. It was not us or them, it was just following the process that you need to follow when you are regulated in so many different markets. And it was expected. We thought that it would be probably 6 months. It took us almost 6 months. So that
okay. You had anticipated that.
Exactly.
Okay. And I imagine sort of working with such a big institutional actor might help, I guess, in projections of that or understanding how to navigate some of those regulations.
They've got the interfaces built, so they are talking to all the regulators we were talking. So it helped. It definitely helping with them. But it's a process that takes time. It's something that cannot be done in 2 months, cannot be done in 3 months. We thought it would take 6 months and almost took 6 months. That was more or less what we were expecting. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to get back into sort of what's next. You guys have this great partnership. You guys have a ton of capital. You guys have, thousands of employees all over the world. What's next for Ebury?
And for us, it's trying to get out of this COVID situation as good as we can. That is affecting us today. Just got an email from one of our office. We had a case, so we had to close the office. And I'm in London. London today is the first day that we have the office open, because for 2 weeks it's been closed because we had also cases. So I think that, and we cannot travel. So it's really very difficult. It used to be a company where we were traveling all the time. So there was this healthy, routine, people meeting, people in different offices. So all that is stopped now. So I'm trying to, see the business going out of this, getting back to normality, having people happy. I think the thought of having people working for so long from home might work for some people, but the reality is for the majority of our people, it doesn't work. They would rather be with their colleagues, having normal life. So I think that's probably top of my agenda this year. Is try to see this situation out, try to get people as happy as possible throughout this period. I think winter is going to be probably tough. I think more restrictions everywhere. So that's probably for this year. After that, look, I guess that once this is over, we will get back to, being our normal selves and be focused. We were focused before March this year. So I try to be more focused on growth, less of a little bit of a crisis management, which is what we're doing now, but more focused on growth, more focused on doing new things, which is hard. It's really hard. I think that probably building new things, new initiatives in this environment is what is the hardest, because you need to meet the people, you need to travel, you need to just see, and that's hard these days, I think.
Are you guys, in your crisis management, have you found anything that really works? It's interesting to hear of COVID from everybody's perspective, but I've heard a lot from fintech startups, especially, that they feel like they have a really close pulse on what's happening. If you're working with small and medium-sized businesses that were really hit because of COVID, what they're feeling. So have you?
The situation is looking, no matter, the situation is bad. It's about how bad it's going, how worse it's going to be. over the coming months. I don't know. Hopefully, not that bad, but it will become worse before it gets better. I mean, that's the reality. That's what you see everywhere. That's what is happening. There's no question. I mean, there are some companies and maybe some sectors that they have somehow benefited indirectly, but I think those are few. I don't think they are the majority of the companies. And look, our business is just to help the majority of these companies in Europe, mostly in Europe. And those businesses have been hit quite hard, most of them. So I think that look, people are trying, but look, things are not normal. They're not back to normal. Yeah, but like any measure we see, they're not back to normal. And I think that for fintechs, probably also fintech is one of the sectors being also most affected. I think the companies that were regulated, that were depending on raising the next round, I think is not. I don't think has been that easy. Also, they've been mostly left out of all government schemes. I think either they have been very minor in their participation, or they've been completely left out. So probably one of the sectors, and maybe it's going to be suffering the most, I think, compared with other sectors' activity. Could be software, could be other type of business. The fintech business is probably the ones that might suffer the most, I think, going through this period, I think. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can find some opportunity either in government dialogue or markets for that. Well, I have one more question before we close because I'm trying to remember everything. So one of the biggest things that I feel like you really mentioned is sort of anticipate how long it's going to take maybe to close. Right now you're anticipating COVID being harder before it gets better. And so sort of give yourself that runway because it's really difficult times. Also, if you want a smooth acquisition, negotiate with a Spanish person. I think that was the key takeaway. If you want it to be smooth and easy, Spanish people are the best. But no, just in closing, what might be some tips that you might want to share with some of the other fintech startups who aspire to for an acquisition?
I think they try to be true to truthful to your mission, no? What you do. I think look, if you do that, you're going to find all sorts of possibilities. Could be an investor that might want to invest because they believe the same you believe. It could be someone that might want to acquire your company because you help them. So it's try to stay true to the problem you solve. Try to be very focused on your mission and try to maybe forget a bit about what you got around you that is not relating to that mission. Sometimes you see people pivot in the business because they think, look, maybe investors might like that more things, so that we're going to change a bit what we are. I think that's wrong. I think, look, if you think that there is a problem you want to solve, stay focused on solving that problem, and that would only bring benefits. Yes, maybe you're not going to be the coolest because you're not just doing what is hottest, but doesn't matter, because some of the best companies are companies that look at, actually in fintech, some of the some of them will be doing IPO in the US, were companies that they've been running for more than 10 years, and 2 years ago no one knew about them, So then it's not, the mission of a company is not to be known. The mission of the company is to solve something that makes sense. The thing is stay glued into trying to solve what you are actually doing as a company. And I think that good things will come out of doing that. Because look, I think that, look, there is money. If you need investors' money, there is a way of doing things. Even if we are in COVID and we need to do things remotely, you can manage. Just try to be very focused on what is that your business does, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Juan, and thank you. I hope that more European fintechs can follow in your guys' footsteps, and that this would be a really helpful session for them.
Very good. Super. Thank you.
And maybe next year you can come in person. We would have loved to have you.